It started like any other night. A small town, two friends, and a silence that suddenly meant everything. The town of Aurelia had always been small enough that everyone knew each other's names, but big enough to still keep a few secrets. Its streets were lined with pale lamps that glowed gold at dusk, and every evening the scent of rain clung to the air like a familiar memory. That was where Maya and Eli grew up. They had known each other since they were kids, neighbors who shared the same routes to school, the same quiet park, the same late-night diner where the coffee was always too strong. For years, their lives ran parallel. Two lines that always seemed close, but never quite met. It started to change one summer evening. Maya had just come home from college for break, and Eli had never left town. He'd taken over his father's small repair shop, spending his days fixing things people thought were beyond saving. She dropped by one afternoon to fix her old camera. He didn't charge her for it. She left with her camera working again, and a strange feeling she couldn't name. After that, they began to see each other more often. Not deliberately, at least that's what they told themselves. Sometimes she'd walk past his shop, pretending she was heading somewhere else. Sometimes he'd stop by the bookstore where she worked part-time, asking about novels he'd never read. Their friendship returned naturally, like it had been waiting quietly for them to notice again. They spent nights walking along the old bridge that crossed the river, talking about everything and nothing. He told her how he wanted to leave Aurelia one day, but never knew where to go. She said she envied him for staying, for belonging somewhere. And so it went. Nights that stretched into early mornings, laughter echoing off the empty streets, and silences that said more than either of them dared to. Then came a night it changed. It had rained earlier, leaving the pavement slick and the air heavy with the smell of wet earth. They met outside the diner, just the two of them. As usual, Eli had brought his jacket, but Maya refused to take it, even though she was shivering. They walked without saying much, following the same familiar route down the riverside. Halfway across the bridge, the streetlights flickered. Maya stopped and leaned against the railing, looking out at the dark water below. "Do you ever wonder," she said quietly, "how some people just fit into your life without trying?" Eli didn't answer at first. He watched the reflection in the river, the way the water carried away in broken ripples. He'd known her for so long, but in that moment, she looked like someone entirely new, someone he was seeing for the first time. He wanted to tell her that yes, he thought about it, that he thought about her, that sometimes when the shop was quiet, he caught himself wondering what she was doing, that he'd never told anyone as much about himself as he had with her. But he didn't say any of that. He only nodded. "Yeah," he said, "I know what you mean." They stood there a while longer, both pretending to admire the river. She was so close that he could feel the warmth of her shoulder next to his, and yet it felt like miles stretched between them. When she finally turned to leave, she smiled. "Good night, Eli." He watched her walk away, the echo of her footsteps fading into the night. He stayed there long after she disappeared, hands in his pockets, heart heavier than before. And somewhere between the sound of the river and the hum of distant traffic, he realized what he had never dared to admit. He loved her, not in the way you love an idea or a dream, but in the quiet, aching way you love someone who has always been there. Someone you never had to chase, because they were already woven into the rhythm of your days. In the days that followed, nothing changed, and yet everything felt different. When she laughed, he noticed the way it filled the room. When she spoke, he caught himself memorizing every word. And when she wasn't there, he felt it, the absence, the silence. He never told her, not because he was afraid she wouldn't feel the same, but because he didn't want to ruin what they already had. Love, he realized, wasn't always about confession. Sometimes it was about staying quiet, about letting the feeling exist without asking for more. Years later, he would still think of that night, the bridge, the rain, her voice carried by the wind, and understand that it had been the moment everything inside him shifted. The night he realized he loved her, and the night he learned that some loves are meant to stay unspoken. Eli never told her. Life went on, as it always does. Maya left Aurelia again when summer ended, her suitcase filled with books and postcards and a camera that still worked. He stayed behind, fixing things for other people, pretending his heart wasn't one of them. Sometimes on quiet nights, he'd walk back to that bridge, the same one where the rain had once fallen, where her voice had drifted to the cool air, and he'd remember the way she smiled under the streetlight. It wasn't painful anymore, not like it used to be. It was just soft, familiar, like a memory that had learned to stop hurting. He still loved her in some quiet, faraway way, but he'd learned that love didn't always need to be returned to mean something. Sometimes it was enough to have felt it at all, to have had that one night when the world felt small enough for two hearts to almost touch. And as he looked out over the river one last time, he smiled to himself, because love, he realized, doesn't always need a happy ending. Sometimes it just needs to be remembered. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to breathe it in. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had a love that stayed quiet, but never really left you? Like this video if you felt something while listening. Subscribe for more cinematic stories about love, loss, and the moments that stay with us long after they're gone.